So tragedy struck my family on Friday when I got the news, which came completely out of nowhere, hitting like a bolt of lightning from the clear blue sky, that I had been suspended from Twitter. These are truly the times that try men's souls. I was informed of the suspension mere moments after posting a video of me defeating my wife in a plastic sled race in our front yard. Now, at first I thought that I was being suspended because of that video, perhaps on a bullying charge or something. Either way, that's the kind of indispensable content that the internet was deprived of in my absence. Then I received the email from our Twitter overlords. They informed me that the suspension was for 2 offensive posts that I had recently authored. One said this, trigger warning, get ready for this. This is what it says. The greatest female Jeopardy champion of all time is a man. The top female college swimmer is a man. The first female 4-star admiral in the public health service is a man. Men have dominated female high school track and the female MMA circuit. The patriarchy wins in the end. The other was a tweet from a few months ago, and I was responding, I believe, to the news that Demi Lovato had come out as a they-them. She had come out as multiple people, where I said in my trademark diplomatic and gentle style, I am not referring to an individual person as if she is 2 people. Everyone else can run around sounding like maniacs if they want to, but I will not be participating. No, thank you. Well, I did say no thank you, so I think I was pretty polite about it. What rules did these 2 posts violate? Well, the company said that I had run afoul of their policy prohibiting hateful conduct. What is hateful conduct? This is the only explanation they offer for that. They say, you may not promote violence against, threaten, or harass other people on the basis of race, ethnicity, national origin, sexual orientation, gender identity, religious affiliation, age, disability, or serious disease. Now, it should be noted that you can still promote violence against them if you just disagree with their opinions, because people do that to me every single day. I mean, every day someone is telling me they're going to kill me or wishing death on my entire family. But that's okay because they just hate me for everything I stand for and believe. And that's totally fine. Hate somebody for their race or gender, on the other hand, well, that is unacceptable. But did I promote violence? I mean, did I make any threats against anybody? I said the patriarchy wins, but that was simply an observation, not a threat. I didn't say the patriarchy will win, you fools. You're all going to pay. That's the kind of thing I might say, but that's not what that's what I hope it will happen, but that's not what I actually said. So where was the threat? Or was I guilty of harassment? Was I harassing the trans Jeopardy contestant by simply observing in a tweet where he was not tagged or even mentioned by name that he's a biological male? Now, if I had to guess, and all I can do is guess because social media companies never deign to explain themselves to plebes like us, but if I had to guess, that's what I would think they probably determined, that I was harassing trans people by making objectively correct statements. And not even, again, making those statements to them, but just in general. In much the same way that I guess that my math teachers in elementary school harassed me by telling me that I was doing long division wrong. The truth is harassment if you don't want to hear it. That seems to be the standard, though rather unevenly applied, of course. Now, fortunately, I was let out of timeout the next day, and I was permitted to continue posting, whatever I want. I mean, posting videos of my sled races if I wanted to. But whether I can continue to post scientifically correct information about sex and gender is another matter. I will continue to do it. We'll just see how much more they tolerate before they ban me. Now, although my Twitter suspension was obviously a great hardship for me, and I'm still struggling with PTSD from the experience, I'm aware that it's not exactly earth-shattering news for everybody else, especially because this kind of thing happens all the time. The point that has greater implications for society is not that this or that individual person gets suspended or banned. It's that the most powerful social media platforms on the planet have forbidden us from stating basic objective truths. Now, although we have perhaps grown accustomed to it by now, it is nonetheless mind-numbingly deranged that multi-billion-dollar companies have decided that you cannot say biological males are men. Many of the dystopian novelists of the 20th century were able to correctly predict various aspects of our society today, but none of them predicted this. None of them prophesied a near future, where it's considered harassment to observe that an individual with a penis is a man. This goes far beyond the darkest nightmares of Orwell or Huxley. And it, of course, extends beyond social media. There are efforts now to impose these kinds of rules on the entire country from the federal level in the form of bills like the Equality Act. School districts have adopted these policies, like in Loudoun County. Major corporations across the spectrum have imposed them on their employees. And we cannot lose sight of just how exceedingly psychotic all of this truly is. Now, of course, I say psychotic in a colloquial sense. The people imposing these rules are not actually crazy. Some of these people that are imposing the rules on behalf of are crazy, but the people coming up with the rules are not crazy. They are acting with intent and with clear and coherent goals in mind. Part of what drives the censorship is that the left's gender ideology is a fragile and vulnerable thing, and they know it. It cannot stand up to the slightest scrutiny. It can only be defended if all of the opponents are cleared from the playing field ahead of time. It can only stand up if no wind is allowed to blow. Over at the University of Pennsylvania, biological male swimmer Leah Thomas just won just a few days ago, first place in the 200 and 500 yard freestyle races in a meet against females. Now, he was defeated in the 100 freestyle race, however, by Yale's Isaac Hennig, who is also transgender. So a trans person beat another trans person in the female meet. Now, the interesting thing is that Hennig is a female who now identifies as male, which means that in the women's competition, men who call themselves women are allowed to participate, but so are women who call themselves men. It is total indefensible insanity, though a journalist on NBC this weekend tried to defend it anyway, and let's listen to that.
So let's talk about it now with Joe Yerkeba from NBC Out, who just published this piece with the latest about Leah. Joe, I'm glad to have you here. Talk about what's going on here, right? Because Leah does have support from her team, from her school, from her league, if you will. And yet for some of her detractors, that doesn't seem to be enough.
Sure, yeah. So there are a few different arguments happening here. You've got an argument about fairness. There are people who oppose trans women competing in women's sports because they say it's unfair to cisgender women who aren't trans, most of whom don't receive the athletic advantages of higher testosterone levels during puberty. Though then you have folks who say there's very little scientific evidence that shows that those advantages carry over for trans women after transition. So then you've got this argument about fairness and human rights on the other side. And trans advocates say that this question of inclusion is about more than just sports because, you know, we're still seeing these efforts at the state level to ban trans people from using the bathrooms of their gender. So they say this debate is really part of a larger conversation about whether trans people can participate in certain aspects of society at all.
Just 1 minute there, and somehow they managed to pack like a half dozen lies into it. Every word of what you just heard is false. It's not true that Leah Thomas has support from his teammates. They hate the fact that he's there. They by no means are thrilled to have this big, bulky guy intruding in their space, but they'll be punished if they say anything on the record about it. They have talked off the record, but that's all they can do. As for the claim that there's no scientific evidence that biological males have advantages in sports, that would be true if you simply ignore literally all of the evidence, because every piece of evidence available confirms over and over and over again that males have an advantage. I mean, every single piece of evidence. There is no evidence on the other side of this. And yet, it's not even our side that needs to produce evidence. If you wish to contradict thousands of years of human knowledge and experience, which you're free to do, it's you who must meet the burden of proof. You must provide evidence that they don't have an advantage, which you have not and never will because you can't. And it's also not true that people are trying to stop transgenders from participating in society. Nobody has made any such attempt or suggested anything like that. I am not aware of any law or any proposal anywhere at any point that would prohibit trans people from using the bathroom. That would not be a sanitary policy, for one thing. It also certainly wouldn't be fair. The question is whether trans people should be required to stick with their biological sex in these contexts, or if they should get special treatment. So once again, everything you heard there was a lie. Because all they can do is lie. Which is no surprise, given that they are waging a war on truth. And that's what this is about. But the lies are so brazen, so empty, so glaringly obvious and false that the truth just cannot be allowed within its proximity at all. The lies would shrivel and die. They cannot endure the slightest challenge. That's why they censor. What other choice do they have? Tell the truth? I mean, well, they obviously can't do that. Well, I hope you enjoyed that clip from the Matt Walsh Show. If you did, go ahead and hit that subscribe button right down there so you can stay up to date on all of our future content.